Welcome to the DFS JAGS PGA Fantasy Golf Show, the 2021 Northern Trust FedEx Cup Playoffs, DraftKings, bets, picks, and Rick's can't miss free money guarantee. On the line with me, as always, my co-host, the DDS of DFS, Dr. Riku Mukherjee. Rick, what's up, man?
Hey, man, how you doing?
Good. Battling technical difficulties. We're here,
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes late trying to figure out what the hell is going on. But hey, we're online, and as long as I can hear you and talk to you, we're good to go.
Yeah, you're in my old neck of the woods now. You're in Philly, right? Is that where you're at?
Yeah, I'm broadcasting live from Bensalem, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. It's I'm here for work because I don't make enough money doing this, so I have to supplement my income doing actual work. But yeah, so it's damn near creeping up on midnight. But excited to do the show, bringing the people, all the bets and information, teaching them how to lose money, just like me and you.
Yeah, last couple weeks have been the worst. But yeah, just you're in Philly right now. I grew up in Baltimore, like 90 minutes from Philly. I used to go to Philly all the time to party and stuff like that. I will say one thing about being in Philly is I went to a Ravens Eagles game one time and we lost, and literally Philly has the worst fans on this planet. Like their fans are just absolutely brutal. Like we lost that game and I had to like run out that stadium, like risking my life. Like I was so scared. Like they were just spewing hate at me, and I guess just they get such a bad rap for being bad fans, and it's well deserved. They're trash fans.
Well, they can't be much worse than the fans in Detroit. I don't know if you've seen it, but the Netflix special came out, The Malice in the Palace, which relived the Indiana Pacers versus Detroit Pistons when, Meta World Peace and Steven
Yeah.
Jackson went into the stands and literally fought against fans. It was great. It was fantastic. But if you're telling me Philly fans are worse than that, remind me to never go to a professional sporting event in Philadelphia unless I'm rooting for the team from Philly.
Yeah, true. But yeah, just talking about last week. I don't know if I can take it. Just taking 2 straight weeks of gut punches has just been absolutely brutal. Like we had English the week before, and the last week I had Henley, and then after he blew it, I even had life in the playoff with Siwoo. I had a ticket for Siwoo, and he drove it in the rough twice in the playoffs and couldn't make a birdie. So man, these last 2 weeks are just a cruel reminder of why betting golf and playing DFS golf is such a gut punch sometimes. When you win, it's absolutely great, but when you lose the way we've lost the last couple of weeks, it's just want to sit there on a Sunday night and cry my eyes out.
Yeah, it doesn't, losing all the money doesn't help anything, right? So, to take that money and basically throw it down the drain is difficult to stomach. But the one saving grace, and I will say this, it means the process, the way that we're going about approaching these things, right? The scientific approach to looking at the stats and selecting golfers, it's this close for us to be in the situation where we have two golfers, two separate guys winning the tournament through, I don't know, 45, 46, 47 holes of the tournament, to have that guy below it, miss the playoff, but have another guy on our card who's actually in the playoff competing to win, tells me that we are literally centimeters away from hitting winners every single time. But this is the third time that it's happened to me. It happened to me at the US Open with Bryson, where through 9 holes on Sunday, it looked like he was going to run away with the US Open again, and he gagged it away. We saw a similar thing happen to him at the WGC, where he just fell apart. But, to have the English ticket, to have the Henley ticket, to have the backup Matsuyama and the backup Siwoo ticket, and to have those evaporate very, very quickly, that's just the way it goes, man. You know what I mean? I hate to say it because I hate losing, but we've become so accustomed to winning this year. We've hit so many damn winners. When we lose, we just expect to win each and every week. So, it sucks, but it's part of the process. And like I said, I'm glad that we're close, and I'm hoping that we can cross the threshold this week. It's a much shorter field. Like I mentioned, it's the start of the FedEx Cup playoffs, and it presents what I believe, and you'll hear kind of the narrative throughout, the community talking about this. It is the best field of the year, right? We're going to get all the super elites. We're getting the top players on the PGA Tour. Obviously, we're not getting all the Euros that we would typically see in the majors or the WGCs, but that's supplemented by what I would call the second and third tier PGA guys, which, you can make an argument those guys are as good or better than the Euros that come over and play in the majors. So it's a phenomenal field. I'm curious, Rick, just from a recapping perspective, how did DFS and betting go for you all the way around?
Pretty bad. I mean, last week was a pretty good reminder not to cash your tickets on a Friday night. Russell Henley just absolutely blowing the field away on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
He was minus 14 on Friday after the second round, and the playoff, the 6-man playoff, was at minus 15. So you're going to tell me that Russell Henley couldn't shoot 2 under at a cupcake course like Sedgefield last week on the weekend? Absolutely brutal. I think on Sunday he was like maybe the only person that shot over par, and I don't know what happened to him. He was in the final group at the U.S. Open also. He just seems to have like bad Sundays where, I mean, all I need the guy to do is shoot like 1 or 2 under at an easy course, that course that he's been lighting up all week, and he just can't get it. And then on top of that, let's just step back a second to a gut punch that I discovered on Thursday morning. Living on the West Coast, unfortunately, lock for DraftKings is at, I think, like 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't wake up in time to check my lineups or anything like that, and I wake up on Thursday morning and check out my main lineup that I play in the 555, and I look at the very bottom of my lineup. I have Mr. Henrik Norlander sitting there with a big OUT symbol right next to his name and says out. The guy withdrew like, I think like maybe it's like 30 minutes, 40 minutes before the lock happened for the tournament. So, I mean, it really was a shitty week to begin with on Thursday. It just was capped off by the poor performance by Russell Henley and Hideki Matsu, not Hideki, by Siwoo Kim in the playoff. I just couldn't cash a ticket to save my week. But yeah, I mean, my main lineup in DraftKings last week was really good at the top. I had Webb and I had Henley and I had Streelman, who all scored over 100 fantasy points. But then the bottom half of it was just absolutely brutal. I had Schwartzel, who missed the cut. I had Ryan Armour, who missed the cut. And then I had a big fat 0 from Henrik Norlander, who withdrew from the tournament. Obviously, a lineup like that, a 3 of 6, even though last week it was a very, very small 6 of 6 percentage. I think in big GPPs, it was like around 2% or something like that. Even with the 3 of 6 like that and a solid core at the top like that, I still obviously couldn't cash. I finished in 416th out of 800 in the 555. And yeah, we always say that it's a time to, get it out of your mind and move on to next week. But I mean, just these 2 weeks, I can handle 1 week, but 2 weeks in a row like that, pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was difficult. And we talked about this kind of mid round, right after the Friday cut. This was the first week in a while where we saw the chalk not perform, which is why we saw a 2%, 6 of 6 rate come through. It's basically been all year. We've been seeing chalk just come through every single week. And it's made for very interesting tournaments, especially in the GPP level, when we have these heavily owned guys, especially guys down in the lower 7s and even into the 6s that are in, the high 15, 16, 17% ownership, making the cut and performing. And so it's been really, really weird. And we finally got what I would call more of a return to normalcy by the bottom of the board, where those guys missed the cut. Ryan Armour, who was one of my favorite plays, I think I had multiple bets on him, top 5s, top 20s, top 10s, used him in DraftKings, and he absolutely shit the bed. He's a guy who was on fire in terms of all of the metrics, and at a course that suited him, he had played well at. And a lot of people were picking him to win, a lot of people much smarter than me. So, it is what it is. To your point, we flush it, we move on to the next week. We take the wins with a grain of salt. We take the losses with a grain of salt. But having 2 back-to-back absolute knives in the back is difficult. But hey, we've got an opportunity. We've got a great tournament this week. It is the start of the FedEx Cup playoffs, and it starts a run of events where we're situated more like an invitational, right? We've got 125 guys in the field versus the regular 156. That will get trimmed down to 70 after this week. And it's the top 70 guys in the FedEx cut, not the guys that make the cut for this tournament. But after this tournament, they recalculate all the scoring. Top 70 guys go on to the next event. And then that gets trimmed down to 30 for the Tour Championship, which is at East Lake. So this week, I'm treating it very much like a WGC and a major. We can get into a little bit of the course key stats here and do a little bit of a breakdown as we talk through this week's event at the Northern Trust. One important thing that we need to denote in all of this is that this event has kind of moved around in terms of locations. It's always kind of been the Northern Trust. I think it was the Dell before that. It's been the Barclays, but it's been played at multiple courses, typically TPC Boston and Liberty National, which is in Jersey City, New Jersey. This rendition is at the Liberty National Golf Course, which is the same place that Patrick Reed won in 2019. So we're talking about course history. We really only have two tournaments, 2019 and 2013, where it was played on the PGA Tour. I believe the President's Cup was also played here in 2017. But in terms of strokes gained data, all we have is the 2 years, 19 and 13. So to me, even though Dustin Johnson was the champion of this event last year, it was played at TPC Boston. He blitzed the field. He shot 30 under. The closest guy was 11 strokes back. We're playing it at a different track. Liberty National is a long par 71. It's basically 7,400 yards. It is one of the tougher East Coast tracks. It was one that was designed for TV. That is a term that you'll hear thrown out a lot about this course. It has inarguably probably the most beautiful skyline behind the course. It over, Manhattan is positioned behind it in many of the shots from many of the holes. So it is a beautiful course visually when you watch it on TV. It's equally stunning when you're on the grounds. We've heard that from Pat Mayo and multiple people who were there in 2019 when Reed won it. Key stats for the week. Strokes gain approached. We talk about the difficulty of the course. Approach will be key this week. So guys like Morikawa, Spieth, who's been on a run, guys who are hammering approach will be in play this week. Par 4 scoring, you've got long par 4s, 450 to 500 multiples. That will be a big thing this week. Your approach distance, right? Proximity from 175 to 200 plus will be important. So guys who hit long irons well. We saw a guy, Kevin Kisner, win at the Wyndham, hitting long irons very, very well. And then, of course, scrambling. Smaller than normal size greens at this course, difficult to hit. Guys will miss greens and will have to get up and down to save par. So typically at this course, the score has been 15, 16 under. It's not a runaway birdie fest, but it's also not the kind of course that's going to grind guys into the ground. What are your thoughts on the course, Rick? What do you think of the tournament this week?
Yeah, this course is absolutely beautiful. I remember watching it in the President's Cup. I don't really remember the Northern Trust too much from 2019. I know Patrick Reed won, but I remember watching the President's Cup and just seeing the Statue of Liberty like in the background of like the 18th hole. It's just so like visually beautiful that like it's just a beautiful course to see on TV. But the weird thing about that is that from what I'm hearing from other shows and stuff like that is that the players hate this course. They consider it a dog track for some reason. I don't know why. Supposedly it was actually built on an actual dump for some
Yeah.
reason. I don't know. But it apparently smells like garbage. But I mean, when you go to New York or in that area, everything smells like garbage, to be completely honest. But yeah, I don't get why I don't get why the players don't like this course as far as like playing it and stuff like that. But on TV, it looks beautiful. It is a pretty tough track. Another thing to note is that Adam Scott won this tournament back in 2013 when it was the Barclays, I think. So he has good history at this course as well. But yeah, you mentioned around the green game is what I'm emphasizing on this week. I think there's a lot of small greens, and your chipping and putting have to be up to par to be able to win this tournament. And I think it was very evident in that being Patrick Reed being the last winner, because he is an absolute wizard around the green with his wedge and his putter. So, but yeah, I have vague memories of the 2019 tournament, but I have really vivid memories of like Charlie Hoffman holding out from the fairway in the President's Cup. I really like the President's Cup, so I remember watching it like from beginning to end back in 2017. So just seeing this course on TV is a beautiful thing. Enjoy watching it on TV. I wish I was there in person, obviously, for the live fantasy golf Golf World Championship this week. From what I'm hearing, they DraftKings got a huge house or something that's like on like the course or something like that, and all the finalists are like staying there or something like that. I wish I was there, but unfortunately, I didn't make it. I didn't get to advance to the second round or the final. So yeah, if you guys are out there watching, live at the course this week, enjoy it. It's a beautiful track, but yeah, it seems weird that most of the players just don't like the course. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think you hit on a key point is that while things may be visually appealing to us, like watching the event or even those folks on the ground, like the guys that are playing there, it's a completely different experience, right? We've all played tracks that it's like, it looks beautiful, but it's not a fun track to play. We call them Mickey Mouse courses where it's like, a break here or a break there. The fairways rolled a certain way. And for whatever reason, a lot of players, to your point, they just don't have a lot of positive things to say about the course. With all that being said, it is a big event. There are guys who are playing for their position within the FedEx Cup playoffs, trying to advance to the round of 70 at the BMW. There's a lot of money at stake in all of this. And the only guy that's not in the 125 that's not playing this week is Louis. He's the only one that is not participating. Other than that, we have 124 guys. So why don't we jump into the top of the board? Let's go all the way above $10,000. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys above $10,000. John Rahm, who we have not seen since the Open Championship, where he finished third. Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, Xander Schauffele, fresh off a gold medal and a disappointing finish at the WGC. Collin Morikawa, Brooks Koepka, and Rory McIlroy. I have one bet from this range, and it's one that's actually not on my card, but one that I hinted at that I would be adding, and that was Rory McIlroy at 22-1. I just think that number is incorrect, and like I've told you before, like I try to find value on the board, and to me, with him, Xander, and Brooks being 22-25-1, you've just got to take a stab at one of those guys and bet the ceiling. From a DraftKings perspective, I love Spieth this week. I love Spieth and Morikawa. I just think that irons are going to be key. Both of those guys right now have been absolutely fantastic in the iron-based metrics on approach from the key distances. So from a DraftKings spot, I'm all over Spieth and Morikawa.
Yeah, I really like Spieth too. I also bet Rory. I got the number also at 22-1. He seems to have flipped his irons and approach. They've been gaining strokes approach for the last few events. So he looks like he's reverting back to the Rory that we saw before COVID and stuff like that. So I think it's time for him to step up and win a tournament. I think he's a really good play for DraftKings. He's the cheapest guy in this range also. So I like him in DraftKings. And like you said, I love Spieth this week. He is a master with his wedges, around the green and putting. And we all know he can make like any distance of a putt. So yeah, I mean, at the top of the board here, I do like those guys. Other than that, I mean, it's hard to go away from John Rahm. We haven't seen him for a little bit.
Yeah.
He took a little bit of a break. So is he rusty? Probably not. I mean, this guy's the best player in the world. He can come out and win any given week. But he is coming in the highest owned on the slate. It looks like he is coming in the highest owned in this range also. So yeah, I mean, I like Rahm, but what are your thoughts on Dustin? I mean, the guy hasn't won this year. Like, it's hard for me to fathom him not winning an event this year. And we know he has an incredible history at the Northern Trust, not given at this golf course, but
Yeah.
a few, last year he broke a ridiculous record. He shot like minus 30 or something at Boston. And then a few years ago, he stuck a knife in Jordan Spieth's heart by hitting that beautiful drive on
In
the
the
18th
playoff,
hole over the water. Yeah. In the playoff. So, I mean, DJ not winning for a whole year. Yeah, we know his game's a little bit off. He's coming in like sub 10% ownership. He's just sitting there between Rahm and Spieth, and it just seems like a good pivot spot, especially in GPPs and stuff like that. If you wanted to start your lineup with DJ, I probably would support that. But like we've seen, his game has been off for a little while. I don't know why, but I mean, I've been kind of harping on the DJ wagon for the last few weeks. I just can't imagine seeing him go a season without winning a tournament. It's just unfathomable to
Well,
me. So I don't know.
Well, he did win the Masters in November, which technically, because of when the season starts, I think that qualifies as a win for this season, right? The 2020-2021
Yeah,
season, because of when the Master was played.
this
Technically,
calendar year, this calendar year though.
yeah, and so if we expand it though, he's still got opportunities as we get on the other side of this. Whether or not he plays in the jabroni events that happen, like the Safeway or the things like that, is obviously he probably won't.
Yeah,
But I agree with you. He's had this run of over a decade where he's won in every single year. He hasn't had that. There are some things. His brother has not been on the bag the last two tournaments, and I don't think we've gotten confirmation that he's back. Whether or not that plays into his ability to, just be comfortable on the course, working with someone new or somebody that's not his brother. Obviously, that's a narrative that's going to play out there. To me, the guy in this range, which we saw it at the WGC, and I realized he didn't perform. To me, the value in this range is Xander if you're playing DraftKings. I mean, he's coming in at sub 10% ownership, which is crazy.
yeah.
But again, I recognize that when we saw this 2 weeks ago at the WGC, I said basically the same thing, and I think he finished like T30 or T40 or something like that. He didn't show up. Some of that could be the letdown from the Olympics. If there's a guy that I'm scared of in this range, it's probably Koepka that I'm not playing or betting, because it's Brooks Koepka. If he comes out and plays like Brooks, he's the best golfer in the world and no one can touch him. But I think DJ is very, very interesting. I can't bet the number because it's below 20. He started out the week at 20, 20, 20, 22, but that's drifted down into 16, 17, 18 now. And so it's not a number that I'm willing to bet, similar to Spieth or Morikawa. But I can see why someone would go to DJ just thinking that he's going to be the DJ that has played well in the FedEx Cup playoffs. Again, this is similar to the time last year where he rattled off like 3 wins out of nowhere after having terrible form. So he's the kind of guy that can just show up. But for me, from a betting perspective, it's Rory because I think there's value, and I'm going to stick to my guns on the DFS side and go with Morikawa and Spieth because they are the two best iron players in this group. And if I get got by John Rahm or Dustin Johnson, hey, that's the breaks. If I can get got by Kevin Kisner and whoever the hell beat Harris English, I can't even remember, I can get over getting got by John Rahm.
Yeah. We talked about Xander. I mean, he won the gold medal. He came back, played at WGC, had to travel all the way from Tokyo. Pretty normal spot for a letdown at that tournament at the WGC. So
Yep.
I think he's had a week off now, and I think he's rested a little bit. So I think he's ready to fire back up. And it's really, like we said, it's really unusual to see Xander coming in at sub 10% ownership, and usually he's locked in at like 20%, even more. People love playing Xander. So yeah, I could see him being a nice pivot. It seems like him and DJ are the pivots in this range. Everyone else seems
Yeah.
a little chalkier. So if you wanted to be different at the top of your lineups, definitely you could start with DJ Xander. That would, not many people are doing that. And like you said, Morikawa, the guy, I mean, he's the best iron player in the world. And at a course where you have small greens and approach is so important, the guy is going to be hitting greens. So we were talking about it at the Open, like how short game and stuff is so important. And Morikawa was maybe not a great fit for that because he's not the greatest chipper and putter in the world. But the guy is, if he hits every green, he doesn't have to chip and chip to the hole. So all he has to do is hit greens and make putts, and he's going to win the tournament. So yeah, I mean, you can make an argument for and against like every guy in this range. I didn't even talk about Brooks, who just no one's even really mentioning. But yeah, I'm not playing any Brooks, but it just, he could come out and win this tournament. And if he beats me, then I'm not surprised by it. Yeah, we can make an argument for every single person in this range, but yeah, like you said, I bet Rory. I'm playing Spieth in DFS. I'm playing Rory in DFS, and I'm probably going to pivot to DJ on for lower ownership.
Yeah, I mean, you've just got to kind of pick your poison here. Take your stances up top of the board. The reality is the floor is pretty high for every one of these guys. Xander's the only one that really hasn't shown up as of late, and it was one tournament event after winning a gold medal. So I can't hold that against the guy. And from a game theory perspective, I like the leverage on the field playing him when he's usually 20, 25% owned. So yeah, it's really here, I don't think you can go necessarily too far gone. It just depends on construction and how you want to do it. Dropping down to that next range, the second tier, the 9K guys, we have a number of big names in this as well. And that's one thing that I think going into this week that I saw, similar to a major, not only were the betting odds really juicy this week, but the DFS pricing was very, very good. I mean, you're getting guys in this next tier like Bryson, Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland, Abraham Answer, the winner of the WGC, Scotty Scheffler, Cantlay, Berger, Matsuyama. You're getting that next tier of elite level guys where you can pair one of these guys with the guys above 10K and put together a pretty strong lineup and still maybe not have to dip too far down into the 6,000s. For me, I think if I'm going to pick two guys from a DFS perspective, I think what I'd like to do is I think I'm going to pivot at the top. Like I mentioned, I like Spieth and Morikawa, but the more I think about it, I think I will use probably a heavier dose of Xander and play the ownership game at the top of the board, which means with a guy in the 9K, I can get a little chalky. I love Hovland this week. I have bet him. I have not been betting him on purpose all year because I feel like a little bit of that Finau letdown where it's like he just shows up, plays kind of poorly on Saturday, and then, backdoor T10s, T5s with a strong Sunday showing coming out early. But I like Hovland. I have bet him. I will use him in DFS. And then the other guy that I like just because of the upside is Justin Thomas. Anytime you can get Justin Thomas north of 25-1 in the betting odds and below $10,000 in DraftKings, to me, that's a clear signal that he needs to be played. I recognize there have been spots for him where just things aren't clicking. One week it's the driver, the next week it's his irons. We all know that he's a terrible putter. So it seems like from week to week, we don't know what the problem area is going to be for him. But I like the upside with Thomas. I like the ability to pair him with someone like Xander and having some cash to be able to do some things in the 7Ks.
Yeah, I also, just like you, I bet Hovland this week. I also bet Berger. Those are my two favorite plays from this range. I think this course is a pretty good track for Daniel Berger. He's been pretty money this year, and I have a feeling about him this week. I think he's gonna win this tournament. I think he's probably my pick to win. So definitely going to be playing heavy Berger this week. I'm going to be overweight on him. Going to be overweight on Hovland. I'm always a sucker for Hovland. He's so freaking good, tee to green. Even though his chipping is just awful. I'm just hoping that his tee to green game is good enough where it can kind of counteract his chipping a little bit. So I'll be definitely playing some Hovland. And I know you're on JT. I'm probably fading JT. Something's weird about him. Like I don't get it. Like we keep seeing this price range on him and these odds on him, and we keep expecting like him to be amazing approach wise, which he usually is, and then we're expecting him to make more putts and flip his putter, but he's just not flipping his putter week to week. Like I just don't know what it is. Like I don't know if he needs to get a new putter or a new putting coach or something, but the guy is just not making putts, and he's obviously lipping out a lot of putts, it seems like, but nothing's going in the hole for him. And I don't know if we always talk about how volatile putting is and stuff like that, and he's one of the best players in the world, so obviously he can flip it, but he needs to do it. I need to see him do it for a tournament at least. He just keeps losing strokes every week putting, and until he actually gets a positive week on putting, I'm probably going to be off of him. And I mean, he's going to be my fade this week in this range, and I'm going to play some Berger and Hovland.
Yeah, you mentioned JT, kind of the inconsistencies. At the WGC, he lost 5 strokes putting. He gained 6 on approach. The week before that, where we have metrics, was at the U.S. Open, where he finished, T19, and he lost almost 2 strokes on approach, but he gained 5 putting. Prior to that, he lost 8 strokes putting at the Memorial. The week before that, at the Charles Schwab, he gained 1.5 putting. So it's not that he's been terrible all the way around putting. It's that things are volatile, things are moving. We just don't know week to week if we're going to get the JT that, putts to neutral and loses strokes, around the green, or the guy that sticks every single approach but can't hit a 2-footer. That's why he's been in this price range. That's why we've seen his odds consistently drift into the mid 20s, because we don't know what version of him is going to show up. And to your point, there's risk in that because his floor is somewhat low for a guy that's considered one of the best players in the world. It's a little bit scary, but to me, that just means that there's opportunity there. And like I said, when I bet a guy, I'm betting the ceiling. I'm betting the best version of him is going to show up. He's going to have that spike putting week like he did at the Players, where he gained 2 strokes putting and gained in every other category. So that's why I bet him. In DFS, you're right. There's risk there. But with the risk, I'm hoping to get some ownership benefit. To me, the fade for me in this area is probably Patrick Cantlay, and that'll probably be the death of me. I know he's a popular play this week. I know a lot of people really like Cantlay because he just sets up very, very well. All of the things that he does well is what the course demands. Patrick Cantlay for me, when he has been super uber duber chalk, he's missed the cut. And this week he's about as chalkiest as he's ever been. And everybody's talking about him. Everybody's betting him. He's got better odds than a lot of the guys that we've been talking about, even guys at the top of the board. And I just, that's a clear signal for me to stay away from Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you read the story or not, but he is actually his caddy got COVID, I think, and he actually is using Joe LaCava as his caddy this week. So if you don't know who Joe LaCava is, he's Tiger Woods' caddy. So he actually called Tiger. He actually called Tiger up and got permission to see if Joe could be his caddy this week. And Tiger was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So him using a new caddy this week that's not familiar, obviously, with his game and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Cam this week. Honestly, if I'm going to be in that range and I'm not playing Burger in that range, then if I'm making a lineup that doesn't have Burger in it, I'm probably leaning more towards Hideki. The guy missed the cut last week, but his ball striking has been so superb. Like the last since the match, he's just been so good this year that I like Hideki. Not at that 11,000 price range that we had last week, but at this price range.
Yeah.
At this 9,000, when he's in the 9K range, when he's in the 8K range. This price range for Hideki, I really like. He's also coming in super low owned. So I definitely, if you're not feeling the Burger love like I am this week, he's pretty chalky. And you want to pivot to somebody, I think the best pivot in that range is Hideki.
Yeah, no, I think Hideki, to your point, similar to the way that we look at the betting odds, when we look at the board, we try to find value. Hideki's the guy from a DFS perspective that has value. I mean, the guy was in a playoff. He was competing for a bronze medal in the Olympics. And to your point, he missed the cut at the WG, or not the WGC, but at Wyndham. And his ball striking was phenomenal. He just lost 6 strokes putting in 2 rounds. So when that happens, it just, that's the poison pill with Hideki, is that he could have these ungodly terrible putting rounds and it does him in. But the ball striking is there, and at 9K, there's value in a guy who is a major winner, a guy who can go out and win big tournaments, and I like him a lot this week as well. Dropping down into the next range in the 8,000s, we've got a lot of familiar names, guys who've been on leaderboards here as of late. And like we talked about, because the field is so stacked, there's value here. It's headlined by Webb Simpson, who obviously did exactly what he does at the Wyndham Championship every single year. It looks like he's playing a little bit better, but there is volatility in his game. And then at the bottom of this range is probably what I would consider the most mispriced guy, the guy who's getting the bump because of the playoff, Sam Burns, a guy who's been, I don't know, in the 6,000s most of the year. He's at the bottom of this range. For me here, I like English. I like Reed. I like Corey Connors. And I like Connors from an ownership perspective. The guy that surprises me, again, much like Xander, and it's the same narrative that we had in the WGC, that I'm not playing and doesn't seem like he's going to get a lot of ownership, is Tony Finau. It's like all of a sudden nobody wants to play Xander and Tony Finau. And prior to, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, whenever their name popped up anywhere, whether it was DFS or on the betting board, people were running to the window to add them to their teams or put money on them. But for whatever reason, he's fallen out of the good graces of the golf community, and he's now one of these lower owned guys. And I realize a lot of it has to do with his form, but it's Tony Finau. His long-term form is very, very good. He's still one of the best drivers of the golf ball on tour. But for me, I can't see fitting him into any of my lineups this week.
Well, you know who one guy's going to play Tony Finau this week? This guy. I am playing Tony Finau this week. I just have a feeling about him this week. I think he's due to flip his game around a little bit. I know he's been bad form recently and stuff like that, but I just have a feeling he's a much better player on bent grass. So
yeah.
He also just had another baby. I don't know if there's any baby swag with that, but this is his like 5th kid, so I don't really know if that counts. But
yeah, no. But yeah, when you're Mormon and Polynesian, you don't get baby swag.
Yeah, so like I said, this is his 5th kid, so it probably doesn't count much. But I am going to play him this week. I think him coming in sub 10% ownership, very, very good number, good price for Tony Finau this week. I think he's due to make a little bit of a comeback here at the end of the year, and I think he's gonna have a good week. My favorite play from this range is Patrick Reed. I'm really happy that he withdrew from the Wyndham last week. He had played so much damn golf over the last month and a half, that he needed a week off. And I think at a tournament like this, like I said above with Spieth, you have to be able to chip and putt, and obviously he did that at the last time they were at this event. He also played well here at the President's Cup, so he has good course history here. He knows how to play these greens. He's won the Masters before, so we know he's a good putter on bent grass. So I like Patrick Reed this week. I'm going to go down with the ship on him this week. I know he's not playing the greatest, but I think this course suits him very well, and he's gonna, he can chip. We saw it earlier this year at Torrey when he won the Farmers. He chipped and putted his way to a win, and I could see him easily doing something like that this week. But yeah, I like Reed. I like Finau. I also like Casey a little bit. I never really get to Casey that much, but I think he has a pretty overall good game. He just never. I just never see him winning a tournament other than the Valspar, like, to be completely honest
exactly.
with you. Yeah, he's a good DFS play. You don't need him to like win per se in this price range, but yeah. So for me, my fade in this range, in the 8K range, is going to be Webb. Yes, he had a good week last week. I'm going to throw that out the window. He plays good at the Wyndham every year. I always say, I just stick with my motto when it comes to Webb: short Bermuda par 70 track. If it's not that, I don't really play Webb. And he's coming in the highest owned in the 8K range. It looks like around like 15% or something like 17%. Sorry. So it's a pretty easy fade for me, just from an ownership perspective, and also not the fact that we're playing a Bermuda track. So I'm going to fade Webb, and I'm going to play definitely going to play some Reed, overweight on Reed, Finau, and some Casey too.
Yeah, the guy that I'm probably going to fade this week, and I think other than Webb, he's coming in the second chalkiest, is Adam Scott. Scott's really not played well all year. I get that we just saw him come extremely close to winning a tournament, doing all the things Adam Scott does, which is strike the crap out of the ball and hope to have a neutral putting week. He has been putting better as of late, but if you look at the long-term form here over the last 6 or 8 months, he really hasn't been playing very well. Again, I also recognize the narrative that he won this event in 2013, but that's almost a decade ago. And if we're taking into account tournaments from a decade ago, again, then you need to take into account, that somebody's dad helped make the course, or that somebody had a kid, and all these other weird narratives. Those stats and all the information from a decade ago, it means nothing. So Scott's coming in really heavily owned. He's also a guy in the betting boards that went from, being 80, 90, 100, where Sergio is. All of a sudden, he's in the 40s and 50s this week. I can't get there with Adam Scott. So he's my fade from this region.
Yeah, he should have won last week. I mean, he had a 4-footer to win, and he did what Adam Scott always does, and he missed the putt. So, I can kind of, I kind of agree with you there. I never really get to Adam Scott. He's one of those weird plays for me always. Like I feel like he can, miss the cut easily, or he can, drop in and win a tournament. But I think last week he looked good. But yeah, coming, back to back. He usually never really plays back to back weeks unless it's like two really big tournaments. So I don't know if that he's a little tired. I don't know. Just he is a little bit older, so yeah, I'm not really in on Adam Scott. But you did mention him earlier, Sam Burns at the bottom of this range, coming in kind of low owned. What are your thoughts on Burns? I mean, he played. He was in the playoff, I think, or yeah, he was in the playoff last time he played. Like he had a chance to win an event. So um, he. I think he's okay. I usually like him on Bermuda, but I mean, I think he's pretty good approach wise for a course like this.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. The reason that I've kind of crossed Burns off my list, well, one, like I mentioned off the top, is value. Burns is a guy we were getting in the sevens and even in the sixes in better fields. And here we
Yeah.
have the best field of the year, and he's $8,000. That just
Mhm.
screams no value to me. And then you hit on the key thing, it's the putting, right? He is a phenomenal Bermuda putter. He's a terrible bent grass putter. We're back on bent. We're in the Northeast. That just doesn't signal anything for me for Burns, so he'll be an easy pass for me this week.
Okay, yeah. He was like 6,300 at the Open
Yeah.
like a month ago, and now
Yep.
he's 8,000, which is a huge price jump. So, yeah, okay, I could see that. But yeah, I think my favorite play from this range, like I said, is Patrick Reed. I'm gonna roll with them. I also bet him, obviously.
Yeah, I agree with you on Reed. I bet him as well. I think he provides good value. Course history. He's been playing a lot. His form has been a little wonky, but that's Patrick Reed. Yeah, when you get the good weeks, you get the good weeks, and when you get the bad weeks, hey, he misses the cut, and that's it. But dropping down into the 7Ks, this is the biggest of the regions that we've seen so far. A lot of familiar names, right? So if you've been playing DraftKings or betting here, you'll see a lot of popular names. Kisner, last week's winner, Sung J M, Kokrak, Shane Lowry, Keegan Bradley, who we have not actually seen in a while, Jason Day, who we haven't seen in a while, Siwoo Kim, who was in a playoff. So a number of names that folks are familiar with, guys who have flashed upside like Brendan Grace. For me, if I'm going to grab three guys from this region, guys I like, Terrell Hatton, I get it. I buy into all of the things why people are fading him and not taking him. I'm looking at long term form, and where he shows up and plays his best is at long tough tracks. So I'm hoping that long term form can flip. I like Hatton this week. The other guy I really like is Sergio. We've all been kind of circling on Sergio the last few weeks, and he hasn't lived up to that winning potential, but he continues to strike the crap out of the ball. And at $7,600, to me, there's value in Sergio. And then the other guy that I really, really like is Max Homa. Homa is a guy who, in big tournaments, tough courses, especially long courses, he plays very, very well. His two wins are Quail Hollow and Genesis, which are long, difficult courses with very, very tough fields. That's where he shows up. And at $7,200 is just a ton of value on Max Homa this week. I get it. He's all or nothing, very similar like to Sam Burns or to Aaron Wise, where they just show up out of nowhere and have a pop week. But I like Homa this week. If there's a guy that I'm staying away from, other than Kisner because I can't stand him, but other than Kisner, the other guy that I'm probably going to stay away from is Shane Lowry. Lowry is a big name. He has been playing very, very well, but I can't get there with Lowry this week. You mentioned it. You have to be good at scrambling, and he's arguably the best guy with a wedge in his hand on tour right now. But for me, there's better options for the money than Shane Lowry, and so I'll find places where I can move around. I like Sergio and Max Homa better than him, so I'll be fading Lowry in this area.
Yeah. Okay. I know you're on him, but I'm fading Hatton. I think his ownership's a little bit too high for me. He's coming in the chalkiest in this range, so I get it. He shouldn't be priced at 7,800, but he is. He's just not somebody I'm getting to. Like you said, I'd rather pivot to someone like Sergio. I'd rather pivot to someone like Poulter, to be honest with you. Poulter has really, really good history at this
Yep.
course, actually. He has a 10th place finish last time, and then back two times ago I was here, he had a 9th place finish. So I'm actually lumping Ian Poulter and Sergio together this week because I think I think they're going to be pretty much locked in as captains picks for the Ryder Cup team, but I think they still need one more possibly good week. I think Poulter for sure is going to be on the team. I think it's a really important week for Sergio. I think the last captain's pick for the European Ryder Cup team, which is really important to Sergio, is battling down between him and maybe Rose or Bobby Mack or somebody. So um, I think this is a big week for both of those guys from that perspective. They're not qualified for the team right now, so I do like the lower ownership on Poulter. I do like the lower ownership on Sergio. I will be playing both of them. My favorite play from this range is Matt Fitzpatrick. I usually don't like playing Matt Fitzpatrick, but I have a weird feeling that he's due to he's been kind of quiet for the last like couple months on tour. So I think he's due to make a little comeback. He's been playing a little bit better recently. Priced at 7,900, I think this is a good track for him. He is a phenomenal putter, so I think the chipping and putting, his short game is going to come back into Matt Fitzpatrick world class that we know of. So I really like Fitzpatrick. Just from an ownership fade, I'm fading Hatton, and I'm also going to fade Henley. I mean, Henley, he broke my heart last week, but he's been playing so good that I could see why people are going to him again this week. But I just, him coming in, 12, 13% owned is a little too much for me. Dropping down a little bit in the 7K range. I like Homa, like you said, he's coming in really low owned. He's a good play. We haven't seen him since the Open, but right at 7K, I also bet him. I like Charlie Hoffman. I mean, the guy, like I said earlier, I had this like vivid memory of him playing in a 4-ball at the President's Cup and chipping in from the fairway and going nuts. So he has good, he's played well at this course before at the President's Cup. So his ball has been outstanding this year. He's, I don't know why he hasn't been playing for the last month, but maybe he was just resting up for the FedEx Cup playoffs. We know that Charlie Hoffman likes cash, so I think this is a good spot for him. Down at the bottom of the 7K range, Vegas is coming in pretty chalky, so I think Hoffman's a good pivot off of Vegas. I also think Seamus Power is a good pivot off of Vegas. Seamus Power is coming in, he's coming in like number one in stats, like on a lot of models this week. So I really do like Seamus Power as well. But if you're looking for a cash game play down here, Vegas is probably the guy. He's been playing so well this year. It's hard to get away from him, but he is coming in chalky for GPPs. I'd rather go to Hoffman or Power in the lower 7K.
Yeah, for me, if I'm going to go away from chalk, this is probably the area where I'm going to do it. I'm going to try and find some ownership leverage on guys. And, again, you're playing boomer bust guys, but a guy like Ryan Palmer, he can show up. He tends to play these longer tracks very, very well. If you look at what he's done historically at the Farmers, you get him on a long track where he can hit driver, places that you've mentioned before where John Rahm sets up very, very well. Ryan Palmer plays very, very well too. So he's a guy I think that can come in. And then what I would consider probably the boomer bust play of the week is probably Matthew Wolff. I recognize all of the things that are around him that are negative right now, but if he can be the guy that was absolutely sticking approaches when he was playing well, we know what he can do with the driver. We don't know what version of Matthew Wolff is going to show up. I wouldn't necessarily put him, if I'm doing 20 lineups in a GPP, I wouldn't put him in 10, but to sprinkle him in 5 or 6 to get a little bit different, because the guys you mentioned, Power, Hoffman, those guys are probably going to be a little bit chalkier. You might be able to get some leverage, and a guy who could legitimately compete to win at this course because of his long form skill set. So I like him. The other guy I really like too is Cam Davis. We talked, dude, ball striking, long off the tee approaches. Cam Davis, he's been very quiet as of late, but again, that long-term form is there. I think he's another guy that's going to go very, very under-owned. And when you talk about the things that the course demands, that is the type of player that he is.
Man, you love Matthew Wolff. I don't get it. I don't see it.
I know. Sebastian Munoz, Matthew Wolff. I cannot stay away from those two guys because I know the game that they have, and when they show up, I'm like, there it is. Like, just do that every week.
Yeah, I just can't click Matthew Wolf's name at the moment. I need to see a little bit more off of him. I might play him in some swing season this year because some of the weaker fields, but I'd rather go to the guys that I mentioned earlier. A name that we didn't mention earlier at all that I also like a little bit higher up at 7,400 is Kevin Streelman. He missed the playoff by one stroke last week. He's been
Yep.
playing really well this year. He's usually, for some reason, in the past years, he's been more of like a West Coast guy, like a California guy, but he's been turning it on at like every event this year. He's been playing well at the majors. His ownership, even though he played well last week, is not that high this week. It's still single digit ownership. So I could definitely see going to some Streelman, but I can't get there with Wolf. The guy just, I don't know what's up with him. He took some time off. He had some mental issues and stuff like that. He hasn't been the same guy that we saw, last year when he was competing with Bryson at the U.S. Open at Winged Foot. Like, he's not that guy right now. I just don't see it. And yes, at 7,100, you're taking a stab at him just to make the cut and maybe make some birdies on the weekend. But I'd rather go to someone else in that range. But you like playing them. You have a soft spot for him and Munoz, so those are your guys, but not for me.
Hey, like I said, I'm a risk reward guy. That's why I like to do the bets more. And I mean, hey, Matthew Wolf, the guy's one on tour. Again, he might be a little bit nuts right now, and maybe that's not the most politically correct thing to say, but you know what? Get it together for 4 rounds, Matthew Wolf. Win us some money, make some freaking birdies out there, and let's go. Like, this was a guy a couple
It's
years
also
ago.
funny that you say
What's that?
yeah, it's funny that you say risk reward because I say it's funny that you say risk reward for Matthew Wolf because he just won the Aon Risk Reward
Exactly.
Challenge for $1 million last
Exactly.
week.
Yeah, so he's flush with cash. He's in a good mood. He's
Yeah.
on his meds. Let's go, Matthew Wolf.
All right.
All right, dumping down into the dumpster. We go diving below sub $7,000. There are 66 guys below $7,000. So more than half of the field is in this price range. To be honest with you, unless I have to, where I'm trying to grab two guys from the top, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. And in looking at the numbers, I don't think there's a lot of people that are either, which means I think you're basically going to get everybody below $7,000, below 10% ownership. There's some guys like Lebiota, maybe Schwartzel, Varner, who has good course history here and has been playing decently, that may surge a little bit in ownership. But I mean, there's not a lot I like here. If I'm going to play some guys, I'm going to go back to Lebiota. He missed the cut on the number. I like Shank as well, who's been playing very, very well. And one more guy, again, that long-term form, the long-term skill set, hard course, difficult. I think Matt Wallace would be probably the other guy in this range that I would lean to in terms of guys that I'm going to mix into regular rotation of the lineup. The other guy is probably Sloan. Those would be the four guys, just because Sloan has played so well. He came so close. But if Sloan's ownership is 12, 13%, that's an easy pass for me to somebody else. I'll go grab Norin or some other random name like Taylor Gooch and stick him in there instead, because I don't want a guy below $7,000 in this tournament that's going to be 13, 14, 15% ownership.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen this week. From what I'm seeing in my projected ownership, I'm not seeing anyone cracking double digits in this range. So I think you're safe if you want to play some Sloan. You took these two guys you took them out of my mouth. I mean, Roger Sloan played wonderful last week. He was one of my plays last week. He had a putt to basically win, I guess, since Adam Scott missed his 4-footer. He lipped out on a putt to win the tournament in the playoffs. So I'm going to be playing some Sloan for sure. You also mentioned Matt Wallace. I really like him this week. He plays well at tough tracks. I think he's a little mispriced here, to be completely honest with you.
Yep.
I think he should be a little bit higher, maybe in the low sevens or maybe even the mid sevens, to be honest with you. So 6,500, good price for Matt Wallace. I could definitely see taking a stab at him this week. My favorite play from this range is going to be HV3. He lit this course up last time they played it. I think he had a little home cooking last week. He went home to his Carolina roots and stuff like that. And he had a little, nice week at home and it was a relaxed tournament for him. And I think he's ready to step it up this week. He's looking right on the outside, looking in for qualifying for the BMW Championship next week. So I think he needs to move up like 8 or 9 spots. So I'm expecting a big week from Varner this week. He's going to be my number one play from this range, and we'll get to him later in our bet segment for some hot takes. But definitely going to be playing some Varner. One other guy that I really like is Matt McNeely. This course is very small greens, and for some reason, I don't know why, but small greens, Matt McNeely kills him for some reason. Like any tournament that has small greens, like Pebble Beach and stuff like that, he plays really well at. So at a course with small greens, Matt McNeely, good play. And yeah, I like HV3. I like Sloan Wallace, like I said. Another guy that, he was way higher priced last week, and his price has been dropping. Mac Hughes, I mean, at a tournament where, putter can be, very important. Mac Hughes, maybe, I don't know. He's back in the 6,000s where you like to play him, but I'm not too sure about that guy. But yeah, I mean, my main guys here are HV3 and Roger Sloan and Matt Wallace for sure.
Yeah, the only other guy that I kind of like, and I've been playing him here recently, he's been making cuts. He had one flash week where he contended, and that's Keith Mitchell. Mitchell's a good ball striker. Again, better Bermuda putter. We're back on bent, so that could be the death blow for him. Similar to HV3, he's got to make a move if he wants to get into the BMW next week. But his form's been good coming in, and so I may sprinkle a little bit of Keith Mitchell into my lineups this week as well. Other than that, I am going to avoid this range as much as possible. Try to go with a more balanced build, maybe cap it off on one of the guys towards the top, and stay away from the 6,000s. So I'm going to stay out of the dumpster this week as much as possible.
Yeah. One other guy, it's going to be tough for me to click on his name, but I think I'm going to, just because I really loved him last week, is Norlander. He was in my main lineup last week. He withdrew. Yeah, he withdrew because of a back injury or something. I don't know. But he's back in the field this week. He's not going to make my main lineup or 3 max build or anything like that this week. He's definitely going to be, if anything, in my 150 build. But he's coming in at less than 1% ownership. Everyone is off of him after last week. So I could see going back to him. Just taking a stab. I really liked him last week, and if he had a little bit of an injury and he's healed up, and I like him again this week, so why not?
Absolutely. Well, let's get into our cards for the week, Rick. For me, like we mentioned, there's a lot of value in the board. You're seeing the kinds of numbers on guys you typically see at majors, at WGCs. But Justin Thomas 25-1, Bryson 28. I was ready to hang myself when he got up to 35 at the WGC, and it looked like he was going to pull that thing away. I cannot go through that again, so I'm on Bryson at 28. Hovland at 30, you can find it at 33. Berger as well, like we mentioned. I think this course sets up perfectly for him. Patrick Reed, the previous winner. And then, of course, Hatton. That's a FOMO bet for me. It's just anytime Hatton gives above 50, I have to throw something on him. I like Sergio this week a lot. I like him better this week than I've liked him at any of the courses that people have been touting him on the last few weeks. I think it's a legitimate course that he can win at. And at 90, 100-1, I think there's massive value. We talked about Homa, his 2 wins, tough courses, his strengths, everything sets up. I'm going back to Leviota at 225. Again, do I think he can win? Probably not, but at 225, this was a guy we were betting at 50, 60-1 4 weeks ago. That just seems completely mispriced to me. And then just taking a total flyer on Sam Ryder at 400-1. He's been playing pretty good. Probably has no chance, but at 400-1, I just decided to throw a couple shekels on him. And then lastly, I mentioned one more ad. I actually have it here. I have added that Rory ticket at 22-1. I just, like you, the game is trending. I saw a lot of positive things in the ball striking metrics. This is the kind of course that sets up for his game, and I could see this being that week that Rory finally breaks through again, other than his Quail Hollow win, which is like, he's won that course like 3 or 4 times. It's like what the Wyndham is to Webb, Quail Hollow is to Rory. I expect him to show up and win. So I will be on Rory this week. Who do you like?
Yeah, my card's pretty similar to yours. I got Rory at the top at 22, Berger at 33. I found 38 on Hovland, which I think is a really good number.
Yep.
So I'm on Hovland at 38. Reed at 47, Fitzy at 66. And then dropping down to my bombs, I got a Hoffman at 135, Seamus at 150, HV3 at 150. 150. I think this is the best number that I found. Johnny Vegas number at 180 on FanDuel Sportsbook. I mean, that was a ridiculous number. I thought he should be more closer to 100. I saw 180. I pounced on it. So Vegas 180 and Sloan at 200 to 1. Some Euro bets that I have. Hugo 35 to 1, Danny Van Tonder 35 to 1, Lars Van Mile 180 to 1, and I'm hearing this guy's name a lot. I heard it on Sky and Tom's podcast. Zeng Kai Bai 200 to 1. I don't really know anything about him, but 200 to 1. Just a couple bucks on there just to see if he pulls a miracle. Some shits and giggles PGA Euro doubles that I played. Everyone paired up with Sam Horsfield in the Euro event. Rory, Berger, Hovland, and Reed. You can see those odds. They're all really large: 275, 347, 371, and 491 to 1. And then my free money bet of the week this week. Last week I was like 100% sure Webb was going to finish in the top 20. Should have took him top 10. But this week, I'm going to go out a little bit more on a limb, but I'm going to say HV3, Harold Varner III, top 20, 6 to 1. Put the bet in. You'll see the ticket cash on Sunday. I promise.
Oh, I will be betting that HV3. Your guaranteed free money hit of the week, as you are 100% for the year on your free money bets, all one of them cashed. So I will be joining you on HV3 for the top 20 at 6 to 1. Any final thoughts, Rick, on the week, on what we've got going on, anything that's happening in the world of golf?
No, not really. I'm excited for the playoffs. Next week, we go to the BMW Championship in my home state of Maryland at Caves Valley. So I'm looking forward to that. I've never seen it on the PGA Tour. I've seen it live in person. I've never played the course, but I used to go to a couple PGA Tour stop events they had there in the past when I was younger. So I'm excited to see that next week. But yeah, I mean, if we didn't mention at the top of the show like we usually do, but if you like our content, please like and subscribe. Leave us a comment if you have any questions. Reach out to us on Twitter. You can see our Twitter handles right down there. But yeah, this is going to be an exciting event this week. I'm probably leaning more towards a balanced build this week, just because, like we said, we don't really like much of the 6K guys. But yeah, well, lineup construction is pretty important this week. So yeah, just remember that even though we said it earlier that it's kind of playing like a WGC or like a shorter field event, it's actually not. There is actually a cut this week, so just be mindful of that. There will be a cut after Friday. This is our last cut of the playoffs. Next week there is no cut, and obviously the Tour Championship there's no cut either. So get your 6 of 6 through. Last week we saw if you got a 6 of 6 through, you were golden. You were going to cash no matter what. This week, try your best, get your 6 of 6 through, and then hopefully you guys can cash some tickets out there.
Absolutely. No problem. Appreciate that, Mike, the producer. As we talked about before, if you're interested in any of the content, any of the information, we put together weekly models. So the rankings that we show next to our golfers when we're going through the lineups, those are our model rankings where we take all of the key stats into consideration, course history, those things, and evaluate each golfer against the other guys in the field. You can reach out to us on Twitter, DFS JAGS. Rick's handle is listed there as well. Shoot us an email, dfsjags@gmail.com. Like, sub, comment. Reach out to us. We love to interact with you guys. New subscribers. We're going to do a new subscriber giveaway here on the show next week. Mike doesn't know that. Rick doesn't know that, but we will be doing that next week. So anybody that subscribes this week will go into the drawing as a new subscriber, and we'll have a prize. Have no idea what it's going to be, but we'll announce it on the show next week. And as always, we appreciate your time, effort, energy, following us, liking us, talking to us, and we look forward to making you some more money this week. That's going to do it for us. Thank you very much again. Have a great night. Rick, appreciate it as always, man.
Yep, I'll tweet out my bet card in case there was a mess up on the slide on the screen. So I'll tweet it out. So just follow me on Twitter and you'll see my betting card.
There you go. Take care, everyone. Talk to you next week. Bye.